Hi everyone, thank you for coming back to this video of extending our knowledge about JPA. So far we are retrieving an employee from a database, and what we have done, we have actually kind of like inserted this employee in this table manually. So if we can do that again, we can insert this again, and we see that we have this information there. So, okay, so if we select everything from employee, we have that employee now added. And this is manual way of doing things, and we usually don't do things manually. I have been in organizations when uh, some teams, went without knowledge of anyone, uh, put things in the database manually. And while there was an application or a service, such as a microservice, that put data in the database, but what it did is that it validated the data and even massaged the data in certain way that the business logic, uh, it adhered to business logic, those data. But putting things manually in the database is not a good idea because there is no checks and balances in doing that, and it could cause issues that are very hard to debug. At this point, so we are going to learn how to put data into the database dynamically. That means using our employee microservice that we just created, and I'm sharing that with you. And we are also going to, while we are at it, we are going to update the data and delete the data. So let's start with a clean database. So I'm going to say delete from employee. And this is going to delete everything in the employee table. So here we go. It's asking for our permission. We say it's okay to do that. It executed, and now nothing is in the table. This is a dangerous statement to keep around. So let's comment it. We comment it by adding these two dashes. Anyhow, so let's go ahead and start with the save. And we want to actually be able to save the data in the database. So right now we are just getting them, right? So let's basically just to reiterate how we did this. We insert this record in the database. Then we go ahead and select it. We see that there is this employee number 1 over there. And we used to go over here in the browser and say localhost 8080 employee 1. We still have it in the cache. Oops, nothing is coming up. And why? Yeah, because the data, the server is not running. The server is not running. It's going to be an issue. So we're going to have the server running. We're going to have our container running in the background. As you see, it's running. And because our database is in the container and the data is in the container. So now that we have a clean start over here, the port is running, the server is running in Tomcat in port 8080. We're going to recover this again. And now we have our employee. There is another way of actually uh, retrieving this employee and using Postman. But I'm going to discuss that shortly after we go ahead about creating an employee in our service. So to do that, we go to the employee, we go to controller, we have a get mapping. To create a resource, we use the post mapping. And the path would be basically our base path. So over here, our base path was employee, is, plural. And then we have this public, and let's return, because when we for now, let's not return anything. How about that? Just say void, and then add employee. And where is the employee coming from? We are sending over the employee. So in some mechanism way that we are going to discuss, but the employee is in the request body, and it will be an employee object. We call that simply employee. So once this request comes in with this employee, what are we going to do with it? We are going to pass it to the service to save it, right? Just like over here, when we pass the ID of employee to service to get it, we are going to pass this to service to add it. So we add this employee, and then basically we kind of like passing the employee that we got in the request. Okay. But this doesn't exist in the service class. We have to create this method. And as I advised you, when you can click, don't type. So we come over here, and if we hover over this add method, it asks us to create this method in the service class. We say, go ahead, be my guest. It was created just like that. And then we are going to invoke our repository to save this. So we are going to say repo, and is there a save method? Voila, it is. And what does it? It takes in our entity object. What is our entity object? It's employee. Very well. Just like that, as easy as that. So we have this employee, we can save it now. And sounds great. But to save an employee, basically, we can pass in the ID. But if I create an employee and somebody else creates an employee and somebody that's sitting next to me creates another employee, and the IDs should be unique. They are primary keys in the table. How do we make sure that these IDs don't clash with each other? Otherwise, don't throw unique constraint error in the database. To do that, we come to our entity, and we need a generator, kind of like a strategy to do that. So we call the generator, okay, generate value, and we call a strategy. And what could the strategy be? Let's most common way of doing this is identity. Auto reverts back to how the particular database that you are using works. Identity means start from 1 and go 2, 3, 4, like that. And so that's my understanding of identity. There are others that I can explain. You can create a sequence in the database and use that sequence name over here, or you can use a unique ID, UUID. So anyhow, over here we use the identity, okay? And looking at the table, let's have a clean table. So over here, and we have a clean table now. Yeah. Nothing in our table. Wonderful. So the question is, how do we pass the data now to our controller? And let's do one thing before we move on. See, controller is the first thing that we get. And then the service. See the way and then the repository. So it helps if we put them this way. Employee could be anywhere. We don't stick them in between. It could be in the beginning or the end, doesn't matter. Since the significance comes with the controller, let's put it over here. So we have controller, service, repository. And then or entity and or database. Wonderful. Now we go ahead and let's see how in the world are we going to pass in employee over here. When we were using browser, we just invoke this API. But this is a read-only thing. We can only add the URL up here. We can't add anything over here. This is a read-only page. So to pass in any information to the server, we have two options, two obvious options, two very common options. One is the IDE. We use an IDE or we use curl command. Curl command runs in the, for example, in the bash. The most commonly used IDE though is Postman. So when we go to the Postman right now and we have this, we can create collections. Collections are usually things that we create to communicate with our microservice. Each collection, there is a one-to-one mapping usually. So we create this collection, we name it employee. All right, that's the name of um, um, our service. And then we add a request like that. Let's do a get over here and put our, yeah, we have it right there. Put our URL to get an employee up there. Once we execute this, hopefully you will see that it should show us the information here, but it is not. And I'm wondering why. Oh yeah, because we don't have anything to show. It was deleted. So let's do that again. Let's insert it and see. We're going to insert these rows. All right, they were inserted. Now do it again. Yeah, we see it came back, this employee. Now if we change this to 2, what happens? We get a second employee with ID 2. This is different. This is the older guy. And wonderful. So, but we want to now actually insert them kind of like dynamically. Well, I don't need that anyway, so let's not retype it. So how do we do this now? We go to the we go to this Postman, create another request. So add request. This one, because we are creating, we need to use post. Okay, and the way to do it is that we just use the base API that we are using, and we need to add that information in the body. So we choose raw and JSON. There are other options here. We don't want to, we can't even send XML, but JSON is our current way of doing it. What happens is that I'm not going to talk about JSON. Basically it's a way of communicating just like XML. It's text-based, and so we're going to add the information that we need for an employee. First name, for example, let's use my name, and last name, let's use the abuse. My name again. And what else? The employee ID. EMP, employee ID. So the case matters over here. Make sure you put the correct cases. And if you can see, we haven't put quotation mark around this. Strings require quotation mark. Numbers don't. So employee ID was like social security number. Okay, 9-digit, and age, let's say 40. Okay, so we have this, we don't specify the ID because we said the ID should be generated based on certain strategy up here. So that will be taken care of automatically. And let's keep our fingers crossed. We don't have anything in the database now. And see if this gets created. We got a 404 error, not found. So what is the issue? If you see over here, we have a post method. But over here, we haven't changed this from get to post. So it's wondering what we are talking about. We don't have a get method like that. So change that to post. These are the I'm glad that we are going through this together without any editing because these are the things that happens all the time. And these are minor things that we figured it out. So try again. We got 404 again. So what the issue may be? In the controller, everything looks good. The server is running. We are saying employees. Yeah, employees. Okay. And this is a post. Did I say that? Yeah, it's a post mapping. So let's go to the over here and see if we have any exceptions. ID is not recognized. Hibernate select ID. Okay. And let's go and well, unfortunately, looks like it's not working. So what is could be the issue? Hmm. Because we don't need the ID. Oh, identity means probably we need to provide the ID. Let's try that. ID. Let's give it a 1. Does this work? No, it doesn't. Let's look at our SQL. Same thing again. What could be the issue? Okay. Did we restart our server after we made those changes? Because identity should be, with that option, should be generated automatically. So let's try again. That was it. We didn't restart. We changed the code. We didn't deploy it. So that's why we got that issue, which threw me off the track. Now, we see the Hibernate SQL executed successfully, and we see the employee should exist now. Yeah, I'm there, Jabad Ramadi, and if I go to get, number 2 doesn't exist there anymore, so I'm not going to get anything if I invoke this. But if I change this to number 1, I should retrieve my information. So it's not finding it. So let's go back to the database and find out what the ID is. ID is actually 4, which is interesting. Okay, so the ID was 4. Okay, wonderful. So now we are all set with this. We were able to create an employee dynamically and retrieve it. What if I want to update this employee? For example, I went and changed my first name from Java to John, and now I need this to be updated in the system. How do we do this? Well, we have to come over here and let's say what the update should look like. Let's create a request for it. If we add a request, update is actually put. We use put for update, put method. So let's make that clear from the get-go before we have another embarrassing thing. And then It's pretty much like that. I'm saying update which employee with ID 4. And what do I want to update? That's in the body. So I'm going to take, I'm sorry, raw and JSON. Let's go to this post. Just copy this, put it in this put. And I'm going to change Java to John. So what I'm saying is that this employee ID number 4, I'm changing the information for it from Java to John. Okay, and this is a put operation. Put means I'm updating a resource. Okay, how about we save this information before we lose any more of it? And we go over here. How do we handle this now? So in the controller, we need a put method. Let's minimize this. And put mapping. And the path is, if you saw the path now that I specified, it was just like this. But this is actually an ID, not employee ID. Let's make that clear. Because the employee ID was Social Security, it was a different thing. I talk about it later. And I can choose the same path and put it there. Okay. Yeah, these were added automatically to escape the double quote. And so here we are. So this is a put mapping. That's the URL. And we are going to add the method. The method name could be anything, but it should make sense to you. So when we do the put, let's return, we can return the updated employee. How about that? And basically over here also we could return the update created employee. We do that in the next step. And then we say update employee. Okay. What do we have? We have actually a request, a request param. So, or a path variable to be more correct. The path variable is actually a long and its ID. We call it ID. So we are saying over here, let's create a new employee, or actually grab what else is coming in the actually. Sorry about that. What is actually coming in the request? So we have the ID as a path variable. We also have the objects that we want to update, which is our employee. So we have a request body too, right? And request body. And this request body is employee itself with the updated information. It could be anything. So let's grab this employee that's passed in and basically we set the ID to this ID that comes in, right? So, and then we invoke the service to save this information for the employee. But service doesn't have that actually. If we have an add employee, let's create an update employee. How about that? Just uh, to not add any confusion. Update employee, and we're passing the employee to it. Okay, so this is actually like that. All right. So we don't have this method. I'm not going to repeat myself. We know how to create this. Over here, we are grabbing the employee and we are using the, oops, we don't have an update over here. So what does it mean? It means that we can use the save employee over here, but the way how the save works is that if the identity matches, if the ID matches, then it updates the employee. And in this case, ID should match because we are using the same ID for the record that currently exists in the database. So we save employee. So save works for both, actually, saving and updating. We could have invoked the same method, but the name of the method over here was add employee, which was confusing. We don't want to do that. So the magic happens, and without anything added to the repository code service, basically uh, utilizes the magic of JPA repository and updates this employee for us. So let's save everything in case we haven't. And basically, we're going to return something, right? So how about we return the same employee over here? This has updated information. So now let's recompile and redeploy this. This both happens when we redeploy the service in IntelliJ. Okay, no errors, very good. No compilation errors at least. And let's see, hopefully we don't get any runtime errors either. So we are updating first name from Javad to John. And let's just revisit this over here. So we are going to see in the database right now, the first name is Javad. And the ID is 4, right? So we come over here, the ID is 4 that we are passing, and we want this to be updated. Here we go. So we changed the name from Javad, wonderful, and the response came back. This certainly came back without any errors. So let's go and verify that in the database the same thing happened. This should change from Javad to John. And it did. Wonderful. So far so good. So we were able to dynamically insert and update the record. What if you want to delete this? God forbidden, the employee gets laid off, or let's take a good scenario. His lottery ticket makes him a millionaire and a multimillionaire, and he doesn't want to work and he quits. So that's much better. What happens? How do we delete this employee from the company? It's pretty much the same thing. Instead of put, we use delete. So let's add another request to this, just for the clarity. Call this delete. And it's going to use the same thing as put, because we're going to say delete employee number 4, or with ID 4, basically. Later on, we're going to use social security number over here, because we don't know the IDs in the database, of course. But for now, let's do this. And come over here. All right. And then, yeah. And then this is going to take this over there. We're going to do the same thing here. We come to delete. The body should be the same. No, we know we go to raw and JSON is already selected. We're going to say delete this employee with this ID, basically. All right. But make sure that this is delete. Okay. So let's save it. And now in the backend, we have to develop this, but we have a similar operation like put, right? For put. So all we're gonna do over here, we are going to copy this, We developers are notorious with copy and pasting, and sometimes that creates issues that, it's hard to find, hard to fix. But uh, let's go with this. Delete employee. And actually, you can't delete an employee physically. You can remove it. That's the better grammar for it. And we have the same thing, but now we want to remove it. And we use remove employee here. But we don't have this in the service layer. So how about we use the same trick to create this method over there. Then we invoke the repo and tell it to delete this employee. He's not with us. He's having pina colada on some beach and a beautiful place. So good for him. For us though, we have to go ahead and delete this employee now. So let's save everything and see how good this delete works. So what does the delete do? The delete in the controller, when the employee is removed, should it return the employee? I'm not sure about that. That doesn't make much sense. So in this scenario, let's use a response entity object, and the response entity gives us more control over what we are returning. So we are saying the response entity dot how about what's the best way to go? Say okay, this was deleted. Okay, say okay. That should do. With should be it's expecting us to put in an object over here, or we can let's see, can we do the build here? Yeah, we just want to return. Okay, this returns 200. That means everything went fine. So save everything and recompile and redeploy. There is a mechanism to redeploy automatically, but we don't use that over here because it's slow. So am I getting an error message here? Application run failed. Employee controller method. What is this? There is already employee controller bin method. What did I do wrong this time? Cannot add employee controller. Okay, let's restart this. Yeah, there is definitely something wrong. So let's go and find out what it is that is wrong. It says ambiguous mapping cannot map employee controller method update employee. There is already employer controller bin method remove employee. Oh, okay. So what did we do wrong over here? Do we have an okay, this is the only remove method that we have for this. How about this? This is the only remove method that we have for this already. So, okay, it says there is already employee controller bin method remove employee mapped. All right. So did I specify this correctly? Oh, okay. So this is very interesting. We copy. I was just talking about this. I said copy and pasting creates issues that are hard to debug. Look, I copied and pasted this over here, but I didn't change the mapping. So that's why we are getting that. This is a delete mapping now. And delete mapping. Let's run it again. Okay, okay. Now we don't have any error. Once we delete this employee, it won't be in our database, and we are getting just a 200 status code back. We get a 200 OK back because we send it back from the controller. Let's go to the database and see if it's been removed from the database. So if we look at everything, oh, now John Yoramati is gone. He is having fun somewhere in the world. Good for him. Now, what we did over here in this session, we learned how to dynamically update, create an employee, add employee, retrieve it, update it, and delete it. And we talked about a little bit of uh, different mechanisms of doing it. So over here in the controller, it's a good idea that when you create the employee or add the employee, you return the employee back and say, okay, I added this employee instead of not returning anything. And so how do we do that? We can say over here, employee, just like here when we updated the employee. But let's do something else. To have more control over our responses, let's say response entity. In the response entity, we want to return an employee. Now we are going to have to return a response entity, and we are going to basically return this employee that was created, right? So uh, we're going to return a response entity, and this response entity has OK, and then has a body of this that comes with this employee. So once we create an employee, it's going to return it with a status code 200. And we could change the status code to something else. For example, we could say, okay, status HTTP status code, and then yeah, value of 201 means it was created successfully, this employee. So that's even better than 200. It's more meaningful. If we go ahead, so the good thing about the collection is that creating collection in Postman is that you can save them and then you can reuse everything. So over here, right now, if you go to get, no employee exists, right? We should have actually a method to return all the employees at this point, because sometimes you don't know what is the uh, ID or social security of the employee we are looking for to get it. Should we do that? I guess we should at this point. So let's do that, and we call it get all. How is it going to be? It's going to be a get mapping. So let's do that. All right. And this one is going to get all the employees. Thankfully, it's a get mapping. Everything looks good. And we're going to say get employees over here. And we don't need to pass in anything because we are getting all the employees. And we are in the service class, we are getting all the employees, right? And this is going to have to be a list of employees then. And yeah, this list we are going to have to enter it, import the class, and then we are going to return it. Over here, this is going to go back as a list of employee. All right. So this method we need to create, and you know the drill, right? So let's make this more meaningful. call it employees. And over here, we create this method. What are we going to invoke in this service method on the repo? The repo must have a find all method. And this one returns everything for us. So wonderful. And what it's going to be returning? It's going to be returning a list of employees, right? Wonderful. So we are going to return find all. Okay, this should do. Okay, no errors. Now, with this get method, if we don't include anything, all right, it's going to return everything to us. And to make sure that everything went right and we didn't break anything, we could have passed in a status code, used just the same way up here, down here, use this, but pass response entity. But right now, for the sake of time, we are going to just go ahead and invoke this. So, oops, we have an empty collection, empty list. Nothing is there to return, and there is no errors in the service. And so this is actually the SQL that was executed. How we can see this SQL? It's because in the properties that we defined earlier in our service, we set to show SQL like that. And nothing comes back. Now we go ahead and add an employee. All right. So we are going to add this employee from just very new. And this brought us to the fact that once I add this employee, now we are going to see it down here, and we're going to see a status code 201, right? So here we go. So the status code 201 means it was created, and this employee has ID 5. Wonderful. So let's add another employee and call this Adam Smith. No, that's another very usual name, and change this 6 to 7 to make it unique. And he is also 41 years old. And let's now create this. What do you think the ID is going to be now? I bet it's going to be 6, right? Yeah, it was created Adam Smith with the ID 6. Now if we go over here to get all, and we just put ID of 6 over here, we get back Adam. But if we don't include any ID, we get everything. It came back with a list of all the employees. This was wonderful stuff. I enjoyed discussing this with you and showing you. We went through this together again, and I messed up along the way. And normally, I told you I don't edit these videos. If something breaks, we fix it together. We go through the pain together. I don't have anything ready made and fancy. In the next video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about error handling. In this API, we're going to implement error handling. But before I do that, let's do one last thing before I say goodbye. And we have changed our code enormously, right? And we are connected to GitHub. So why don't now we go ahead and put our changes in the GitHub? Because we have added a lot of code, a lot of logic. We want to preserve that. We don't want, for example, if our laptop crashes on the way to work, or we pour the cup of coffee accidentally on our laptop, lose everything. And you have to do this again. So how do we do that? We go over here to the commit tab, and we see all the changes that we have made. We have made changes to employee, controller, and service. Wonderful. The repository didn't change because everything gets done magically with JPA. We could commit this. We could also commit this some other way. And let me show you how. We bring up this git bash. We can do this manually. Of course, when I can do it with IDE, I don't use the manual way. But let's see how we can do this. Let's see which branch are we in now. It says git branch fatal, not a Git repository. Okay, oh my God, I'm not even a Git in this repository. So that makes sense. Let's go to that repository. Open, open this in Explorer. Okay, here we are. Now we are here. Now we're going to open the git bash here. Do we have it here? Yes, we do. Okay, now we execute the same command. Git branch. We are in master. We still have that topic over there. We don't care about it. We can delete it with -d option. I'm gonna do that later. But right now, we don't want to be in the master. We don't want to put our code in the master because we haven't. First of all, we need to put unit testing to this code. And second of all, we need to deploy it and test it in development environment after we have tested it locally. Then everything went good. Then we promoted to master. We put it in the SQA, make it available for testers to test. So right now, we just need to put it in a branch, in a feature branch or a topic branch. So let's create that branch. Git and then checkout -b, that means create the branch, and then let's create this, for example, um, some hypothetical branch. Imagine that we did this as part of PCG 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 a story in Jira. Okay. Now this branch is created. We want to push everything to this. We want to push everything to this branch. We want to publish it and push it. So we say git commit, and then let's put a message over here. Say added logic for saving and updating employee. Just let's keep it simple. We are getting an issue. We are saying changes not staged. Okay, so because we didn't stage them, what we did was that in the IDE, if you remember from the last session about GitHub, we didn't check mark the staging, but we are not using the IDE. This expects us to actually um, uh, stage our changes before we can commit them. So what we can do over here, we can use git add, and then um, let's put everything in this folder. Now everything is actually staged by doing that. Now let's see if we get lucky and we can commit. Okay, this was successful. It was committed successfully. And now we can do the same to push it, because right now we haven't pushed it to GitHub. We can use mixture of both now to, just to show you how we can do this. We can come here to the IDE, go to that branch. You see that automatically changed to the right branch. We can go to that branch, click on it, and we can simply say push. We see our changes here in the commit window. Previously, it wasn't showing and give us a headache, but we overcame that together. So we go ahead and push it. Now our changes are in the GitHub. It's suggesting if we can create a pull request, if we should create a pull request to merge our changes to master. We won't do that now. We have our changes in the GitHub, and that's pretty good. So if I go to GitHub, my own GitHub, Java 86, we can see in the employees. Now we have two branches. Yeah, in addition to master, it's suggesting us if we want to create a pull request. And let's imagine that we tested our changes, we created test cases for them, we deployed it uh, as a container, containerized it, deployed it to development environment, tested over there. Everything is uh, looking good and green. We can create a pull request now to promote it to SQA. So we put our changes to master. We explain what we have done uh, in this merge. So we have added, for example, logic to save and update employees. Uh, and okay, we create a pull request. Now what happens with this pull request? And this, I'm going over this again because it's very important. We see 3 files changed. We can see our changes over here. Okay, what the changes were. We can view them differently. And you know, over here, if you come over here and see, we can view everything. And over here, we say ready to merge. So, or but it hasn't been reviewed yet. So the most important thing is now, as a team, there will be reviewers here. We can go and assign them. We can choose all of our team or one or two of them to actually review our code changes. Recently, we can even ask in GitHub Copilot to review our changes, which, if it is available, I recommend it. I recommend it strongly to do that. Anyway, there is no issue. We can merge pull request according to this, so because there is no conflict. And after merging it, a good practice is to go and delete this branch, this feature branch that we had. Now, if we go back to the code, we only have the master, and our changes are in the master branch now. Wonderful. This took longer than I expected, but things came up unexpectedly. Thank you for sticking with me. In the next session, we do error handling. We go through also the GitHub again whenever we make a change. Um, Thank you for sticking with me, and see you in the next video.